I would say before I knew about Michael Jordan, Dwight Anderson was the Michael Jordan of our era.
Number 23 for Kentucky, 6'3" freshman, Dwight Anderson.
Someday, Dwight Anderson's picture will be on the cover of magazine.
What a play by the freshman! There's the blazing speed of Anderson! Anderson with all that speed will go out!
First of all, he was a point guard who had unbelievable speed and talent.
He's so quick he can play tennis by himself.
They say he's the fastest man ever to play basketball at Kentucky.
Played above the rim at the point guard position and just was a physical specimen.
He was voted one of the top 10 high school basketball players in the 1970s by Basketball Weekly. He can do everything, averaged 38 points a game.
And he just looked like he could not be controlled on the floor by anybody.
Dwight was like a freak of nature.
He was a blur when he ran up and down the floor.
It gets cut off. Anderson thinks about the shot. Now takes the jumper from the free throw line and has it. Fine play that time for Dwight Anderson.
There's so much potential there in Anderson offensively. It's scary. What a quick first.
Remember the cartoons years ago when a guy would be running so fast and his feet looked like wheels? That's how Dwight looked when he was on the floor.
Dwight, in my opinion, was clearly the best high school player I'd ever seen. Better than LeBron.
We played them in the Cotton State Classic. Our whole scout report was how we control Dwight Anderson, keep him out of the middle of the floor. Could never do it. He was too good, he was too athletic, he was too fast for our point guards. He was, like I said, one of the most unbelievable talents I've ever seen.
Anderson knew he was going to stuff this ball even before he came on camera there. He took it right in front of us, took it right down against a great player and a great leaper, and still put the ball right through the hoop.
Dwight Anderson was that kind of guy that could wow you.
And it goes to Swift. He puts up a 15-footer rebound. McDonald quickly down to Anderson. Can he catch up with it? That was without a doubt. That was the most fantastic play I've ever seen in basketball.
Maybe I'm like 3 or 4 inches from being out of bounds when I catch it. So the ball skipped, and when I caught it, the skip took me, and my speed took the skip, and we just went flying. And before I hit the ground, it just went like somebody just dropped it straight in, and it just whoosh.
The University of Dayton obviously was after him hard. Ohio State was after him hard. Kentucky was very, very big at that time.
He was the reason why the stars came to Dayton, man. You can go to a basketball game, and you saw all the big-time coaches at the time.
I had the opportunity to see him play. We were very impressed by his total game.
The night I was up in Dayton, Ohio to watch him play, he had 53 points. I remember it vividly. He literally scored every way you can possibly imagine.
I mean, everywhere you went. If you went to a practice, you saw a coach. If you went to a game, you saw a dozen coaches. If you went to a tournament, you saw, 24 coaches.
Well, all we needed was a big to-do, a big fuss in the media that the 76ers had coaches and scouts, going out to see Dwight Anderson. We didn't want other teams to know what we were doing. Nobody else was going to see high school players. We were quite ahead of the curve at that point. Chuck Daly, well known, Billy Cunningham, Jack McMahon, to have it broadcast that they were at a high school game in Dayton, believe me, that would have been a huge story at the time.
Never seen a guy run that fast and jump that high and do the things that he was doing. And I think he wore 20. I think he wore 23 also. Yeah, but no, he was good. He just made a poor choice in going to Kentucky, though.
I mean, they got that history of winning, man. Plus it was 2.5 hours away, and they just won a national title. So,
Welcome.
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 Welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to the University of Kentucky.
Kentucky. They bought a lot of athletes. Leonard Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton. He was the best recruiting college coach in the country. I mean, he'd go get them. He'd get 4 or 5 All-Americans every year, and he's a good friend of mine. I listened to him a lot. And how'd he get him? Money.
Kentucky.
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 Kentucky. Kentucky.
Kentucky. Kentucky.
Kentucky.
He and Levon Williams were fighting it out for position, and he threw a forearm and hit Williams. The referee caught him. Anderson in underneath is hurt. Anderson is down, and we have timeout. Dwight Anderson, the freshman from Dayton, Ohio. Dwight Anderson's great speed, turning the corner, getting inside. When he goes up, his feet knocked out from under him. Looked like he landed on his elbow or perhaps his ribs, but it's definitely on his left side. Trainer Mike Ritz is out there. It appears to be an injury to the arm area or the wrist area. The wrist area, I believe, and he's such a great leaper. His feet were knocked out from under him. Let's take another look at it. Here he goes, and he gets up high. His feet are knocked out from under him. He rolls over on his left wrist, it looks like. So we're just 23 seconds into this game, and Dwight Anderson has to go to the sidelines, and let's watch. Are they going to take him to the dressing room? Yes, they are. Kentucky dressed fewer players than any other team coming into this tournament, and now with the loss to Anderson, and we will say again, I hate to report it, but he broke his hand, actually the wrist area, the left wrist, with just 23 seconds played in this ball game, and he has lost to the Wildcats, and a tough loss it is for them.
When Leonard talked, I listened. So that was the only adult figure that I had around there that I pretty much, always listened to. So here we go. He tells me he wants me to leave.
Dwight Anderson, so you asked him to transfer from Kentucky?
I'm asking, what? Why? Well, he just said he was tired of the way Joby Hall was treating the blacks. I went home to Dayton. It's 2.5 hours. I just went home and sit there. And then here go Minifield and Bowie and them they got caught with the cocaine. But I wasn't nowhere. I didn't do messing with cocaine, so I wasn't nowhere around. But the way they spent it, Joby Hall and them, that I got caught with him. But only because he wanted me to leave, I left. I didn't want to go.
The cost of discipline sometimes is great.
Dwight Anderson left school for personal reasons.
The way it ended there at Kentucky, because he was gone, really, packed up and left during the night. We found out the next morning. At least I don't know about the rest of the players, but from my standpoint, we didn't really have that closure as far as, saying goodbye or him explaining why he was leaving or what exactly the circumstances were.
I remember being in mourning for 2 days when Coach Hall told me he was going to have to dismiss him from the team, because I loved him. I just thought he was a wonderful kid. Unbelievably gifted player, so exciting to watch. But again, there were certain things you have to do in terms of adhering to team rules and what have you that Dwight just couldn't get his arms around. He was a little bit immature in that area, and it was sad because he wasn't a bad kid at all. He really wasn't.
We were playing against Berkeley, Cal, my alma mater, and the rule at the university was you were not eligible until 5 minutes after the last exam had been given. So he could not play in the first half. So a basket was set up behind the bleachers. While our game was going on the first half of the crowd was under the stands, watching him warm up. I'm serious. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds of people under there, and it was a distraction to everyone.
The Trojans are led by all Pac-10 guard Dwight Anderson, who in Morrison's estimation is the most gifted athlete he's ever coached. Saturday night, he made a shot called by many as the greatest of all time.
When I initially got to USC, I was coaching in the cocaine capital of America. And in '79, cocaine was a non-addictive drug.
47-37 ball game. Anderson goes to the basket, cuts the lead to 8 points. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remain in the ball game.
Out west. I hung around guys, my agent, and, he entertained at parties and stuff. And, they would bring the chemicals in. And
it was something that created a euphoria, but the American Medical Journal said no. I had speakers coming into my team all the time. Later, at USC, I set up the drug testing program and was on the Pac-10 Drug Council.
It gets cut off. Anderson thinks about the shot, now takes the jumper from the free throw line and has it. Fine play that time for Dwight Anderson.
There's so much potential there in Anderson offensively. It's scary. What a quick first step.
I had worked hard, to talk to my team about avoiding drugs and all that could go on.
I was sitting around, man, and a good friend of mine was freebasing. He's a pro player. There you go. I'll leave it like that.
For 20 years, I've been the chairman of an organization that battles drug and alcohol abuse.
After hours of watching, I joined in, and here we go, man. The disease, man, I didn't know it was a disease. I just did it because it was recreational, and I did it to stay up or whatever, and that is just, you end up staying up years on it,
Look back and, I obviously did not deliver the message well enough to Dwight.
I didn't know Dwight was ever on drugs. I think he might have one time that I was aware of smoked marijuana. I think Coach benched him at that particular time. But hard drugs, if that's what you're talking about, there was never any hard drugs available.
Woo! So man, that disease, man, the drugs, that stuff, man, y'all think it's recreational and all this. Yeah, it might be at one point, but it will destroy your family. You will lose hope, and faith, and courage, and being in the world, and man, don't do it.
I wouldn't have been surprised, if he had OD'd. I worried about him. I just genuinely worried about him. And so I was hoping that I would hear, yes, he is alive. I got a phone call from Tommy Newell, who was an assistant coach with the Indiana Pacers. And he said, tell me about Dwight Anderson. And I said, why? And he said, he's in our camp. He said, Stan, I can't believe this guy. And I said, you've never seen a greater athlete. He said, you're 100% correct. He said, Stan, I think he's going to make our team. And I said, really? I was thrilled. Years had passed. I hadn't heard anything about his basketball, since he had been in rehab. And he said, he's doing so well. I told him, you got to be careful who he's with and that. He said, well, we've had him followed. And he's with the right people. And he's clean. And he's doing everything right. And I choked up. And so I was so glad. And then I got a call. And he was he was the 13th man on the squad, and they're only going to keep 12, and he got cut. And I picked up the phone and I called Chip. And I said, Chip, find him. Go find him, because there's no question he's going to go back. He'll become so depressed he'll go back to the streets.
My disease held me prisoner, and for the next 12, 14 years.
This is where I grew up at, 316 Westwood. During the course of my disease, I got promoted and demoted in the house, and they figured the best way to keep me close, or where I can come and rest, was on the porch. So this is where Tom Archdeacon would come and see me camped out at. I would be up here. Pretty much, I would find me a corner. Either which corner, and they had a rollaway bed out here, and I would lay here and pretty much bungle up.
I had heard that he was living in the crawl space under his parents' home. I heard he did not have shoes or socks, and I heard that he had no teeth, that he had been beaten within an inch of his life for not paying a drug bill. I was so hurt when I heard this. You have no idea. I cannot begin to tell you how painful that was for me to hear.
It hurt real bad.
Describe that hurt.
It's like, it would be like having a child that was out there, except he was my brother, but it's the same feeling. I just wonder where he was at night, and was he eating? Was he alive?
I stayed in a house that's right next to the garage house here. I was in there sleeping. They was demolishing it. This is my garage house. Yeah. I stayed in the house next to this, and they was tearing it down. Now here go me, man. You know, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I ran out the front. Neighbors were looking at me all crazy, they were laughing. Cost all my clothes and everything. I just ran out with my bicycle, and that's all I got. You know, but God always provided every year. You know, so I'm walking around and I'm thinking, oh man, it's gonna be cold. I gotta find me, you know. And Lord have mercy, I look at this building, and I see it had a separate 220 than that building. So I followed the wires, and I said, oh my God, I didn't know. It was summertime, so you couldn't see the box. So I'm saying, all right, that's excellent, because if I can't see the box, the DPNL people, they really ain't gonna be paying attention to it. So I tweaked the box, and I lived in here for 3 years before the next 4 years I didn't have DPNL. Because I sold my breaker box for my disease, you know, to get drugs, and I sold my copper for my disease. So, you know, and then, like I said, the housing, it's houses.
For him being out on the street, I kept letting him come in. And each time he come in, he would take something.
I stole more from me than I did them.
And most things he was taking was his trophies, too. But he would take radios, TV, stereo.
This is where I stayed for 7 years, 3 years with DPNL and 4 years without. And it is nothing to be proud of, but I had to survive. So this is how I live. And it wasn't as dirty as it was, but what I did, all my trash, I couldn't take it out because the city would know somebody lived in here. So I would have to pile it in the rooms. And as I piled it in the rooms, I eliminated myself from them rooms. You know, so first I started off in the back, then I piled all the stuff back there. So whatever, if something crawled around, they got a corner, you know, and I had my corner.
A couple times on the street, you know, asked you for money, you know, I couldn't say no, you know. Although I might know what he's doing with it though.
So many people knew him, he was famous. People were basically giving him money to do drugs. They would see him and they just were giving money. Even me.
You know, there are so many guys that I've been around in my life who could have been great players, you know, professional players, because of the drugs and the addiction that really just slowed their lives down. But this is one guy I thought, even my first couple of years of college, that this guy was going to be a great pro. I mean, he was pro material if there ever was a guy. He was pro material. But unfortunately, the life, and I always call it the life out there in the streets, will you know, it'll chew you up and spit you out, you know. And I've seen it done time and time and time again, where great talents get chewed up out in the streets because it's unforgiving.
Right gives him a fake and then goes to the right. As he gets up in the air, he gives a little shake of his hips and then lays it off high off the square.
Okay, basically what you know, in my experiences in the street, I had to live in places close to where, like the junkyard, where you take scrap, is right downtown. So I would get all my stuff together out of the houses, and I would roll it down here, and I would sleep with it under the bridge. So I got to meet some interesting people that lived under the bridge too.
And this is Dwight Anderson. Anderson has 9 points tonight.
I was in Denver at the Final Four. During that Final Four, I was up in the bleachers. A gentleman 2 seats away said to me, "Do you guys know where I can get a ticket for the final game?" I said, "No, sir, I don't." And so he said, "Well, here's my phone number," and he wrote it down on the back of his business card. "And if you come up with a ticket, give me a call. I want to go to the final." So I took the card, stuck it in my pocket, didn't think anything about it. Came back to school, and I was reconciling my trip report, you know, my hotel and all those things, expenses, meals, and came upon this card. And saw the phone number on the back, turned the card over, and it was Dr. Abrams in Dayton, Ohio. I immediately picked up the phone and I called Dr. Abrams. And I said, "Dr. Abrams, how would you like to have the 2 greatest seats of your life for the Final Four?" Because he was a basketball nut. And he said to me, "Who do I have to kill?" And I said, "No, nobody." I said, "Do you know the name Dwight Anderson?" He said, "Of course." I said, "If you will get him into a rehab program, I'm going to give you my 2 tickets for the Final Four next year." He said, consider it done. And I said, I'm sending you some shoes, some basketball shoes, and I'm sending you 6 pairs of socks. And I said, and give them to him and tell him it's from Coach. And tell him I love him.
Oh my God, man. I'd say at least about 15 years where I done had some keys where on my own that I didn't earn, and actually being sober to enjoy it, man. It's been a long time. That's what God's doing for me what I can't do for myself, man. He's bringing me back to the world. That's a good deal. Oh man, wow, I want to change my life. I tell you, where I was at, man, I mean, there's nothing more I could do in my disease, man, but either kill somebody or be killed. Man, imagine that, turning the knob again. All right, here it is. This is it. This is some of the promises. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do what you do.
Yeah. Initially, when Dwight got here, he was a little apprehensive, but he was willing, and that was the main thing. He made it clear early on that he wanted help. He didn't know quite what to expect.
Oh man, it depends on if I had some work or something, and you know, like I said, 8 o'clock. My roommate gets up at 4:30. He goes to work. He's a chef. But like 8 o'clock, I ate some breakfast, drank some coffee, go out there and smoke a cigarette. I know that's not good to do, you guys, but yeah. Then I'll go down the house for him and fellowship with the guys, the little brothers and the big brothers and the other alumni. Then I'll play volleyball, basketball. I'll go to an outside meeting. I'll go up to the office and talk to the council. I'll talk to my sponsor, man. Then I go to a night, meet at nighttime. Basically, that's it. And watch, look at TV, pray, and then get up and do it all over again. Oh yeah. That's just my certificate completing first phase of this deal. I'm on the second phase now. This first phase is how you get the solution and understand and the spiritual aspect and 12 steps and fellowship and then the big brothers and little brothers and the second phase is teaching you how to live life on life terms. By getting a room that probably, some people take for granted, but it's been a long time since I had a room with electricity on where I didn't have to rig it or, so this is one of the promises, that you get. It's a lot more. So just happy I completed something. My name is Dwight Anderson, the Blurry. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I'm up here in Cleveland to play old timers. In my recovery, man, I found out if I stay active, if I do positive, everything's gonna be all right. Dayton 3, 1, 2, 3, Dayton.
I suspect that Dwight Anderson is the quickest 48-year-old on the planet today. I suspect that he could take some of those skills in an area that absolutely filled his heart with incredible, incredible moments. And if he could share that with others, he'd be one of the best teachers around. I think that if he would be willing to share his story, perhaps there's another Dwight Anderson out there someday who would hear it and hear it well and not have to go through those things and go out of his way to thank Dwight Anderson for the lesson that Dwight taught him, a very difficult lesson. But I'm so happy to hear that he is in a rehab program.
The Blur was definitely something special. It is something special. I just can't wait to the day where I'm watching him standing in front of the audiences of young people giving up the real story. You know, to this day, you hear little kids say, that's who he is? I thought he'd be taller than that. I thought he had more muscles than that. But they've heard the stories of now their grandparents, of the white, the light, the blur. Unbelievable. One thing we can say about it, he's our champion. He's our champion, and we're rooting for him no matter what, because he gave to this city so much. No one has ever come close. And I think instead of standing in judgment, we got to give back and help out no matter what.
Come here. That's what she was saying.
Come here, let me in.
You want to take a picture with me?
Come here. Come here. Hey, tell him who you are. That's my nephew. And tell him who you are.
I'm his daughter.
That's my daughter. Come here.
Are you so sweaty?
Tell him who you are. Tell him your name.
It's been 30 years.
Wait to the camera. Gotta let know it's there. All right. Keep walking by.
That's a good one. That's actually. It's wonderful that he's here. I haven't seen him actually since we graduated from high school.
One of the greatest basketball players of all time.
And just to watch him play was amazing. The brother was just amazing.
Oh, one day we was getting ready to go to Kentucky, and he was going, and he hadn't finished his examination. And I told him he had to take his test. He said he wouldn't. I cold cocked him, and he took his exam.
Yes, sir.
Dad.
How you doing? Good to see you, sir.
You never know.